I'm so glad you're here tonight. Right now, while you rest, your brain is quietly deciding what to hold and what to release, sorting through the day's weight with a wisdom you didn't have to teach it. Tonight, you'll discover why the act of letting go isn't weakness. It's the deepest science your body knows. And by the end, you'll understand why sleep itself is the most natural form of surrender in the universe. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying in the soft dark, feeling the familiar weight of the day still sitting somewhere in your chest, allow yourself this quiet space. We'll explore 100 sleep science facts about letting go, from the invisible processes that begin the moment you stop resisting, to the neural pathways that soften when you release control, to the profound truth that your body already knows how to heal, if only you allow it. This thoughtful journey through the science of letting go builds a gentle bridge between searching minds. Your quiet support, a like, a subscribe, or a soft share, creates a pathway for more tired souls to discover and brings us closer to protect this sanctuary for every restless mind who finds their way here. One peaceful night, one sleepy soul at a time. Your healing journey inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into the peaceful fog of approaching sleep, safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where memories rest safely, in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Letting go is not just a feeling. It is a measurable biological event. When you consciously release tension or stop trying to control a thought, your nervous system shifts. The parasympathetic branch, sometimes called the rest and digest system, begins to take over from the sympathetic fight or flight response. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, blood pressure eases. Researchers studying autonomic nervous function have found that this transition can begin within seconds of a genuine relaxation attempt. Your body does not need permission to heal. It only needs the absence of interference. Letting go, it turns out, is the oldest medicine there is. The human brain does not simply switch off when you fall asleep. It transitions through a series of carefully orchestrated stages, each one requiring a loosening of conscious control. Sleep onset, the moment you actually cross from wakefulness into sleep, depends almost entirely on your ability to stop monitoring your own mental state. This is a well-documented phenomenon in sleep research. The more attention the brain gives to the act of sleeping, the more it returns to a watchful state. And the watchful state is the opposite of what sleep requires. Simply noticing this tendency, without judgment, is already a form of release. The paradox at the heart of sleep science is this: sleep arrives only when you stop reaching for it. There is a region deep in the brain called the locus coeruleus, a small cluster of neurons that produces most of the brain's norepinephrine, a chemical that drives alertness and vigilance. During wakefulness, this region fires steadily, keeping you oriented reactive, and watchful. But as sleep approaches, the locus coeruleus gradually quiets. Its activity decreases in a slow, progressive pattern, like a lighthouse dimming at dawn. This quieting is not passive. It is an active, coordinated process, and it can only happen when the body stops demanding readiness. The science of falling asleep begins with the science of standing down. The default mode network is a set of brain regions that activate when you are not focused on any particular task, when you are daydreaming, mind-wandering, or simply resting. For decades, neuroscientists assumed this network was idle, a kind of neural background noise. Recent research has completely overturned that idea. The default mode network is now understood to be one of the most metabolically active systems in the brain. It processes social information, consolidates identity, integrates emotional memories, and prepares the mind for meaningful rest. When you let your thoughts wander gently, without judgment, without direction, you are activating one of your brain's most sophisticated healing systems. There is something called sleep pressure, and it builds continuously from the moment you wake. The main molecule responsible is adenosine, a byproduct of neural activity that accumulates in the spaces between brain cells throughout the day. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine accumulates, and the stronger the urge to sleep becomes. This is why you feel heavier, slower, and softer in the evening. Your brain is not failing. It is filling. Adenosine is the biology of letting go, accumulating patiently until the signal becomes undeniable. Sleep, in this sense, is not something you achieve. It is something that arrives when enough time has passed. One of the most studied aspects of emotional regulation is what researchers call cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reframe a stressful experience in a less threatening way. Brain imaging studies consistently show that when people practice reappraisal, activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, decreases, while activity in the prefrontal cortex increases. What is particularly relevant to sleep is that this shift mirrors what happens naturally during drowsiness. As you grow sleepier, the prefrontal cortex softens its grip on executive control, and emotional memories lose some of their charge. The act of drifting towards sleep is, in a very real neurological sense, the act of gently reframing the entire day. Your body temperature plays a quiet but central role in the letting go of sleep. In the hours before sleep, your core body temperature begins to fall, typically by around 0.5 degree to 1 degree Fahrenheit. This cooling is not incidental. It is one of the primary signals your circadian system uses to begin the transition towards sleep. Heat moves from your core to your hands and feet, which is why your extremities often feel warm and soft in the evening. This redistribution is managed by the hypothalamus, the brain's master thermostat. Cooler external temperatures help the body complete its natural thermal, letting go more easily, allowing sleep to begin, not just in the mind, but in the warmth of your own skin, gently dissolving into the night. The amygdala, that small, almond-shaped structure deep in the temporal lobe, is most active when you feel threatened, anxious, or emotionally overwhelmed. It is also notably more active during REM sleep, when emotional memory consolidation takes place. What researchers have found is that amygdala reactivity during the day is directly linked to the quality of emotional processing that occurs during sleep. When you go to bed holding on to unresolved emotional tension, the amygdala enters sleep in a heightened state, disrupting the architecture of REM and reducing the quality of overnight emotional regulation. Letting go before sleep is not just comforting, it is functionally protective. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the autonomic nervous system, running from the brainstem through the neck, chest, and abdomen. It is the primary pathway of the parasympathetic system, the one that slows the heart, calme digestion, and quiets the stress response. Vagal tone, a measure of how active and responsive this nerve is, correlates strongly with emotional resilience, sleep quality, and the ability to recover from stress. Practices that activate the vagus nerve, slow breathing, gentle humming, and mindful attention to the body, have been shown in clinical research to improve sleep onset and reduce nighttime waking. Your body has a built-in letting go pathway, and it runs straight down the center of your chest. Sleep itself is a form of biological letting go that evolution has preserved for hundreds of millions of years. Every vertebrate studied so far sleeps in some form. Fish, reptiles, birds, mammals, even some invertebrates show sleep-like states. The fact that sleep persists across such a vast evolutionary landscape, despite making an organism temporarily vulnerable, tells us something profound. The benefits of letting go must be enormous to justify the risk. Sleep is not a quirk of biology. It is a necessity so fundamental that life itself has organized around it. Tonight, by choosing rest, you are participating in one of the oldest rituals in the history of conscious life. There is a chemical called gamma-aminobutyric acid, more commonly known as GABA, and it is the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, GABA's job, in the simplest terms, is to slow things down. It quiets overactive neurons, reduces neural excitability, and allows the brain to ease into lower levels of arousal. Most sleep medications work by enhancing GABA activity in the brain, but the body produces its own GABA naturally, and its release is facilitated by, among other things, reducing mental and physical tension. When you genuinely let go of the day, GABA is part of what floods your neural circuits and prepares the ground for sleep. Your brain has been waiting to give you this gift all day. The insular cortex is a folded region of the brain tucked beneath the frontal and temporal lobes, and it is one of the primary areas responsible for interoception, your awareness of the internal state of your body. Heart rate, breathing, hunger, pain, and emotional feeling all pass through the insular cortex. Research in recent years has shown that people who find it difficult to release worry, physical tension, or emotional distress often show sustained activity in this region. The insula is, in a sense, the organ of self-monitoring, And one of the most reliable ways to allow it to quiet is simply to stop checking, to stop asking how you feel, and instead allow yourself to just feel. Muscle tension and emotional tension, they are the same thing, expressed in different systems. The somatic marker hypothesis, developed by neuroscientist Antonio Damasio and supported by decades of subsequent research, proposes that the body continuously encodes emotional states in physical form. Worry tightens the jaw. Grief loads the chest. Unresolved concern pulls the shoulders upward. These are not merely poetic descriptions. They are patterns the body holds quietly, available to be released whenever you are ready. When you relax your muscles, genuinely, progressively, with attention, you are not just releasing tension, you are unwinding the physical encoding of your day. Progressive muscle relaxation, a technique developed by physician Edmund Jacobson in the early 20th century and refined extensively since, involves systematically tensing and then releasing muscle groups throughout the body. Clinical trials consistently show it reduces the time it takes to fall asleep, decreases nighttime waking, and improves subjective sleep quality. The mechanism is partly physiological. It activates the parasympathetic system, and partly cognitive. The act of deliberately releasing a muscle teaches the brain that release is possible. It is a lesson repeated across the body, one muscle group at a time, until the entire nervous system accepts the invitation to soften. Your brain processes an enormous volume of information every single day. Much of this information does not need to be retained. In fact, much of it cannot be, without overwhelming the systems that manage long-term memory. One of sleep's most important functions is selective forgetting, the pruning away of unnecessary connections between neurons to make room for what actually matters. This process, sometimes described as synaptic homeostasis, unfolds primarily during slow-wave sleep. You do not sleep in order to remember everything. You sleep, in large part, in order to forget the right things. Letting go is not a loss. It is the foundation of clarity. The glymphatic system is a network of channels surrounding the blood vessels of the brain, through which cerebrospinal fluid flows during sleep to flush out metabolic waste products. Among the substances cleared by this system are amyloid beta and tau proteins, molecules associated with neurodegeneration when they accumulate. Research in animal models has long supported this process, and recent human evidence has now strengthened the picture considerably. A randomized clinical trial published in early 2026 directly confirmed that glymphatic clearance of these Alzheimer's-related proteins increases during normal sleep in humans compared to sleep deprivation. The glymphatic flow appears to be facilitated in part by changes in the spaces between brain cells that occur during sleep. The direction is now clear. Sleep appears to clean the brain in ways that waking simply cannot. There is a particular quality of thought that arises in the transition between wakefulness and sleep, a state called hypnagogia. During hypnagogia, the rational, linear control of the prefrontal cortex begins to loosen, and the mind starts producing images, fragments of sentences, and sensory impressions that follow their own logic rather than yours. Many people find this state unsettling at first, precisely because they cannot control it. But researchers studying hypnagogic states have found they are associated with increased creativity, novel problem solving, and emotional integration. The loosening of control that feels so uncomfortable is also the doorway through which some of the mind's most meaningful work is done. Heart rate variability, abbreviated HRV, is a measure of the variation in time between consecutive heartbeats. Counterintuitively, more variation is better. High HRV indicates a flexible, responsive autonomic nervous system capable of shifting smoothly between states of activation and rest. Low HRV is associated with chronic stress, poor sleep, and reduced emotional regulation. Sleep is one of the most reliable overnight enhancers of HRV. Research using wearable devices has confirmed that individuals who fall asleep earlier experience fewer awakenings and have more time in deep sleep, consistently show higher HRV by morning. Every hour of genuine, surrendered sleep is a measurable restoration of your body's capacity for calm. The prefrontal cortex is the last brain region to develop in childhood and adolescence, typically not reaching full maturity until the mid-20s. And it is also one of the first regions to show impairment under sleep deprivation. Even a single night of poor sleep measurably reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex, impairing decision-making, emotional regulation, and the ability to release impulsive reactions. This has a direct implication for the science of letting go. When you are sleep-deprived, the very neural machinery you use to release worry, reframe stress, and choose calm is compromised. Sleep does not reward people who manage their emotions well. Sleep is what makes emotional management possible in the first place. REM sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep is the stage most closely associated with dreaming and also with emotional memory processing. During REM, the brain replays emotionally significant events from the day, but does so in a neurochemical environment that is dramatically different from waking. The stress hormone norepinephrine, produced largely by the locus coeruleus, is almost completely absent during REM sleep. This is significant. It means the brain can revisit difficult or painful experiences without the physiological stress response that accompanied them when they first occurred. REM sleep allows emotional memories to be processed and integrated in a kind of neurochemical safety. Sleep researcher Matthew Walker has described REM as overnight therapy, and the mechanism supports that description. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, follows a predictable circadian rhythm. It peaks in the early morning, typically around 30 to 45 minutes after waking, a phenomenon known as the cortisol awakening response. It then declines through the day, reaching its lowest point in the first few hours of sleep. This natural decline is part of what makes the evening feel softer, slower, more inclined toward quiet. But chronic stress, irregular sleep schedules, and late-night screen use can all disrupt this rhythm, keeping cortisol elevated into the night. When cortisol remains high at bedtime, the body does not receive the hormonal signal that it is safe to let go. The biology of sleep is, in part, the biology of feeling safe enough to release oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, is released during moments of genuine connection, warmth, and feeling understood. Research has shown that oxytocin has direct effects on the nervous system that promote relaxation, reduce anxiety, and facilitate sleep onset. It lowers the activity of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the main stress response system, and increases feelings of safety. Interestingly, the conditions that promote oxytocin release mirror the conditions that promote healthy sleep: warmth, familiarity, absence of threat, and the felt sense of being held. The science suggests that the experience of feeling safe enough to sleep and the experience of feeling loved are neurologically closer than they might appear. The practice of mindfulness meditation, broadly defined as non-judgmental, present moment awareness, has been studied extensively in relation to sleep. A meta-analysis published in a major psychiatric journal found that mindfulness-based interventions produced meaningful improvements in sleep quality, insomnia symptoms, daytime fatigue, and depression compared to control conditions. The proposed mechanisms involve multiple pathways: reduced ruminative thinking, lowered cortisol, increased parasympathetic activity, and changes in the way the brain processes self-referential thought. But perhaps most simply, mindfulness works because it teaches the skill of observation without reaction, which is, neurologically, very close to the skill of letting go. Sleep inertia is the groggy, disoriented feeling many people experience immediately upon waking, and it is caused by a temporary mismatch between alertness signals in the brain. It typically lasts between 5 and 30 minutes, but can persist longer after significant sleep deprivation. What is less commonly known is that sleep inertia is most pronounced when you wake during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM. This means that waking naturally, after completing a full sleep cycle and arriving at the lighter stages of sleep, involves significantly less inertia. The body, when allowed to complete its own process of letting go and gradually returning, wakes more gently. Sleep, like most things, resolves most beautifully when it is not interrupted. There is a growing body of research on what scientists call emotional granularity, the ability to make fine-grained distinctions between emotional states rather than experiencing everything as broadly positive or broadly negative. People with higher emotional granularity tend to sleep better, regulate stress more effectively, and recover from difficult experiences more quickly. The connection to letting go is direct when you can name exactly what you are feeling. Not just "I feel unsettled," but "I feel a quiet, low-grade concern about something I cannot change tonight." You can release it more precisely. Vague emotional tension is harder to release than something you can see clearly. Sleep science and emotional science converge on the same truth. Clarity is the beginning of release. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside. Trillions of organisms working in silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, brain thinking, all without your command. Notice the gentle sensations on your skin, in your muscles, along your spine. You are a complete ecosystem, diverse, self-balancing. Right now, your brain is doing what it knows how to do. You have been letting go without realizing it for every moment of your life. Now we continue. Sleep architecture refers to the pattern and sequence of sleep stages throughout the night. A typical night of healthy sleep contains 4 to 6 complete sleep cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes and moving through light non-REM sleep, deep, slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep. The proportion of deep sleep is highest in the first half of the night. REM sleep dominates the second half. This is why cutting sleep short, even by an hour or two, disproportionately reduces REM sleep, which is the most emotionally restorative stage. The architecture of sleep is not rigid, but it has a wisdom. It front-loads physical restoration and backloads emotional processing, as if the body knows you need to be physically repaired before you can begin to emotionally integrate. Sleep pressure and the circadian alerting signal work as a pair throughout the day. As adenosine builds through the waking hours, the pressure to sleep increases. A counteracting wave of arousal keeps you alert during the day, despite this rising pressure. In the evening, that alerting signal begins to withdraw, and sleep pressure is no longer opposed. The result is the quiet, heavy feeling of late evening. Understanding this process makes it easier to trust it. Your tiredness is not a failure. It is chemistry. And chemistry, given time, always completes its cycle. Rumination, the repetitive, passive focus on distress and its causes and consequences, is one of the strongest predictors of both insomnia and depression. Brain imaging studies of ruminative states show sustained activity in the medial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate cortex, both key nodes of the default mode network. What is particularly relevant is that rumination involves a specific relationship with thoughts, treating them as facts rather than events. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is currently the first-line treatment recommended by sleep researchers and clinicians, works primarily by changing this relationship. When you learn to observe a thought as a passing mental event rather than a truth requiring resolution, you interrupt the loop that keeps the brain awake. The body's inflammatory response is intimately tied to sleep. Interleukins and other cytokines, signaling molecules released by the immune system, promote slow-wave sleep. This is why you feel intensely sleepy when you are ill. Your immune system is essentially asking you to rest so it can work. But the relationship runs in both directions. Chronic sleep deprivation increases baseline inflammation in the body, raising levels of C-reactive protein and other inflammatory markers. This creates a loop that is gentle to interrupt, because each small act of rest quietly restores what accumulated stress has diminished. Sleep is when your immune system consolidates, calibrates, and strengthens. There is a phenomenon called pre-sleep cognitive arousal that researchers use to describe the heightened mental activity many people experience at bedtime. The circling thoughts, the replaying of conversations, the planning that feels pressing at 11 in the evening but dissolves by morning. Studies show this arousal is meaningfully reduced by structured worry time. A brief, dedicated period earlier in the evening for writing down concerns and identifying small, concrete next steps. The act of externalizing worry, moving it from the mind onto paper, appears to satisfy the brain's monitoring function. Once a thought is captured somewhere, the brain no longer needs to keep it active. Writing things down is a form of neural letting go. Body scan meditation, the practice of progressively directing attention through different parts of the body, noticing sensation without judgment, is one of the most widely used clinical interventions for insomnia. It works through several mechanisms simultaneously. It redirects attention away from ruminative thought, activates the parasympathetic system through focused relaxation, and builds interoceptive awareness. Clinical trials comparing body scan to sleep hygiene, education alone, consistently show greater improvements in sleep onset and overall sleep quality. The body scan is not complicated. It is simply a structured invitation to notice what is already there, and in noticing, to gently allow it to soften. Slow, deep breathing, specifically breathing with an extended exhale, is one of the most reliably documented methods for activating the parasympathetic nervous system. The mechanism involves the vagus nerve. As the lungs expand and contract slowly, signals travel upward to the brainstem, reducing heart rate and promoting a calm physiological state. A breathing ratio with an exhale roughly twice as long as the inhale, such as 4 counts in and 8 counts out, is commonly used in clinical relaxation protocols. What this means is that every long, slow exhale is a measurable act of neurological letting go. The body listens to the breath. The breath is a language your nervous system understands. The hippocampus plays a central role in memory consolidation during sleep, but it also plays an important role in the regulation of the stress response. The hippocampus contains receptors for cortisol and provides inhibitory feedback to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, meaning it helps tell the stress response when to stop. Chronic stress and poor sleep both affect the hippocampus over time, reducing its functional capacity. This creates a loop. Stress disrupts sleep. Poor sleep impairs the hippocampus, and an impaired hippocampus is less able to quiet the stress response. Gently and consistently choosing rest, night after night, is one of the quietest ways to soften that loop. There is something in the sleep research literature called sleep effort, the deliberate, conscious attempt to control the process of falling asleep. Counterintuitively, high sleep effort is one of the strongest predictors of chronic insomnia. The harder you try to sleep, the more the brain's monitoring systems activate the very circuits you need to quiet. Now watching themselves try to quiet. This is not a character flaw. It is a property of the monitoring system itself. The clinical treatment for sleep effort is called paradoxical intention, deliberately trying to stay awake, with eyes open, in a relaxed posture, without any intention of sleeping. In many clinical trials, this technique reduces sleep onset time measurably. The lesson is ancient. The gentlest approach produces the deepest rest. Temperature regulation offers one of the simplest, most accessible paths toward better sleep. A warm bath, taken 1 to 2 hours before bed, can reduce the time to fall asleep by an average of around 10 minutes. According to a systematic review of controlled studies, the mechanism is not warmth itself, but what warmth initiates: peripheral vasodilation, which draws heat away from the body's core and accelerates the internal cooling that sleep requires. A water temperature of around 104 to 108 degrees Fahrenheit for as little as 10 minutes produces this effect. The warmth at the surface signals the thermoregulatory system to redirect heat outward, and the body, receiving that signal, begins its own quiet preparation for rest. Comfort and biological necessity, in this case, are the same thing. The relationship between light and sleep is mediated primarily by a specific type of photoreceptor in the eye called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells contain a pigment called melanopsin and are particularly sensitive to short wavelength light. Blue light in the spectrum, around 480 nanometers. When these cells detect light, they send signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master clock, which in turn suppresses melatonin release from the pineal gland. Even brief evening light exposure can delay melatonin onset by 30 minutes to an hour. The screens, overhead lights, and devices of modern life are biochemically extending the brain's daytime signal, making the act of letting go physiologically harder than it has ever been in human history. Melatonin is often described as a sleep hormone, but it is more accurately described as a darkness hormone. It does not cause sleep directly. Rather, it signals the body that night has arrived, that the external world has become dark and safe, and it coordinates the cascade of physiological changes that prepare the body for sleep. Melatonin rises gradually in the evening, peaks in the middle of the night, and falls in the early morning hours. Its primary function is to synchronize the sleep-wake cycle with the external light environment. When you dim the lights in your home in the evening, you are not just creating atmosphere. You are giving your pineal gland the signal it has been waiting for, that it is safe to begin letting go. There is a form of psychological flexibility that researchers call experiential acceptance, the willingness to experience difficult thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attempting to suppress or change them. Acceptance and commitment therapy, which uses this concept as a cornerstone, has been adapted for insomnia and tested in clinical settings. Studies comparing acceptance-based sleep interventions to cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia show comparable results, with some populations responding particularly well to the acceptance-based approach. The underlying mechanism is consistent with what we know about the brain's arousal systems. Struggling against an unwanted internal state amplifies it, turning toward it with curiosity and non-judgment. Gently allows it to settle. Your gut and your brain communicate through what is known as the gut-brain axis, a bidirectional signaling network that includes the vagus nerve, the enteric nervous system, and microbial metabolites produced by the trillions of bacteria living in your digestive system. Emerging research suggests that the composition of the gut microbiome influences sleep quality. Certain gut bacteria produce precursors to serotonin and GABA, both of which play roles in sleep regulation. Conversely, sleep deprivation alters the microbiome within days, reducing microbial diversity and the abundance of beneficial species. The letting go that happens in sleep thus reaches all the way down into the ecology of your gut. A reminder that no system in the body is isolated from the rest. One of the more beautiful findings in modern sleep science is this: the brain does not experience all sleep stages equally. Slow wave sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM, is associated with the release of growth hormone, a peptide that promotes cellular repair, protein synthesis, and the restoration of tissues throughout the body. Approximately 70% of daily growth hormone secretion occurs in the first 90-minute sleep cycle of the night, closely synchronized with the first episode of slow wave sleep. This means that the very first hour of genuine, surrendered sleep is disproportionately restorative. Not because sleep front-loads its gifts, but because the body has been waiting all day to begin. The first hour of letting go is, biologically, the most generous hour of the night. You're still here with me, thoughts still flickering like candlelight. Just notice. Don't judge. Just notice where your mind is. We're exploring consciousness itself, the very thing doing the exploring right now. Strange, beautiful, and perfectly calm. Let's drift onward together. The act of holding on to a thought, a worry, a memory, or a version of a conversation requires metabolic energy. Neural circuits that remain active consume glucose and oxygen. The subjective experience of mental exhaustion at the end of a difficult day is not merely a figure of speech. It reflects the genuine depletion of attentional and regulatory resources. What this means is that letting go is not just emotionally wise, it is energetically necessary. The brain, like any system, cannot sustain high output states indefinitely. Rest is not the absence of activity. It is the form that activity takes when the body chooses long-term sustainability over short-term demands. Emotional suppression, the deliberate effort to push away or conceal an emotional experience, increases the physiological and cognitive burden of that experience. Research by James Gross at Stanford has shown that when participants suppress their emotional responses to a distressing stimulus, their heart rate, skin conductance, and self-reported distress all remain elevated, even as their outward expression decreases. The emotion does not disappear when suppressed. It is simply removed from conscious awareness while continuing to tax the body. This is one of the key arguments for why genuine letting go, releasing rather than concealing, is so much more restorative. The body knows the difference between release and concealment. Gratitude practices, specifically, taking a few minutes before sleep to write or mentally review things that went well during the day, have been studied in relation to sleep quality in multiple independent trials. The proposed mechanisms include reduced pre-sleep cognitive arousal, a shift in attention away from perceived threats and towards safe or meaningful elements of the day, and increased feelings of social connection. A study published in a peer-reviewed psychology journal found that participants who kept a gratitude journal for 2 weeks fell asleep faster and slept longer than controls. Gratitude, at its core, is the practice of choosing what to hold, which makes it, by extension, the practice of choosing what to release. Dreams that involve the emotional processing of challenging experiences are thought to serve a specific function. They allow the brain to simulate and rehearse responses to difficulty in a context that is neurochemically safe. This is sometimes called the threat simulation theory of dreaming, proposed by Finnish cognitive neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo. According to this framework, unsettling dreams are not failures of the sleeping brain. They are attempts by the brain to metabolize unresolved fear, to run it through the system one more time, in the hope of filing it properly. When you find yourself dreaming about something difficult, it is worth considering that your brain is doing therapeutic work without your conscious direction. It is letting go on your behalf. The practice of journaling before sleep, writing freely about thoughts, feelings, and the events of the day, has a measurable effect on sleep onset. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that participants who spent 5 minutes writing a to-do list for the next day fell asleep an average of 9 minutes faster than those who journaled about completed tasks. The act of writing future intentions appears to satisfy the brain's planning function, offloading the maintenance of open loops from working memory. The implication is not that you need to have everything figured out. It is that putting things on paper, even imperfect plans, even incomplete thoughts, signals to the monitoring brain that it can rest. Chronic insomnia is defined by difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early, on at least 3 nights per week, for at least 3 months. Despite adequate opportunity for sleep, it affects an estimated 10 to 15% of the adult population worldwide, with rates notably higher in women, older adults, and those with mood or anxiety disorders. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBT, is the treatment with the strongest evidence base, outperforming sleep medications in long-term outcomes across multiple meta-analyses. It works by addressing the cognitive and behavioral patterns that sustain sleeplessness, sleep effort, unhelpful thinking about sleep, irregular schedules, and spending too much time in bed while awake. The treatment of insomnia is, at its core, the restoration of trust in the body's own capacity to let go. Sleep deprivation affects the neural circuitry of reward in ways that compound the difficulty of letting go. The ventral striatum, a region involved in reward processing, becomes more reactive under sleep deprivation, increasing the pull of stimulating inputs, bright screens, engaging content, a sense that something is still unfinished. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex's ability to quiet this response is reduced. This explains why it is harder to put down the phone when you are tired. Not because you lack resolve, but because the neural balance between reward and regulation has been temporarily shifted. Sleep is the restoration of that balance. There is a concept in cognitive science called the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for the brain to remember unfinished tasks more readily than completed ones. It was first described by Soviet psychologist Bluma Zygarnik in the 1920s and has been replicated extensively since. The Zygarnik effect is part of what keeps the mind cycling at night, returning to incomplete thoughts and unresolved concerns. The practical antidote, supported by recent research, is task commitment. Writing down not just the unfinished task, but a specific intention to address it. This brief act of commitment appears to satisfy the monitoring system, allowing the mind to disengage from the unfinished item. The brain does not need closure to rest. It only needs the promise of it. Sleep talking, somniloquy, occurs in multiple sleep stages and is far more common than most people realize. Studies suggest that up to 66% of people report talking in their sleep at some point in their lives. It is most frequent in childhood and tends to decrease with age. Sleep talking is generally considered benign and does not typically disrupt sleep quality for the person experiencing it. What is worth noticing from a letting go perspective is what sleep talkers say. Most speech recorded during sleep studies is fragmentary, emotionally neutral or mildly reflective, and often echoes daytime concerns. The sleeping brain, even in this reduced state, is still gently attempting to process the day. Some part of us goes on speaking long after we believe we have let go. We are at the midpoint of our journey tonight, and halfway through, a pattern has emerged that is worth naming. Every fact we have explored has arrived at the same quiet conclusion from a different direction. Whether we have been looking at hormones or neural circuits, at breathing or light, at memory or emotion, the science of sleep has consistently pointed toward a single truth. The body already knows how to do this. Every mechanism we have traced is already running, already working, already waiting. The only thing sleep requires of you, the only variable that is genuinely in your hands tonight, is the willingness to stop preventing it. Letting go is not something you have to learn. It is something you have to allow. Let each breath guide you to realize time is yours, a separate stream that only you are living, while the rest of the world continues. This second you're breathing, listening, is unique. The processes happening in your body right now have been refined across millions of years of evolution. You are not outside of that wisdom. You are part of it. Cherish this present moment, knowing that right now, your time belongs only to you, and we continue drifting. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master circadian clock, contains roughly 20,000 neurons and is located in the hypothalamus, just above the optic chiasm. It receives direct input from the light-sensitive cells in the retina and uses that information to synchronize every organ and tissue in the body to the 24-hour cycle of the day. When your circadian rhythm is well aligned, when you sleep at roughly the same time each night and wake at roughly the same time each morning, the entire body operates in coordination, and the transition into sleep is smooth. Consistency in your sleep timing is, in a very real sense, a form of letting go practiced in advance, a daily act of trust in your own biology. The experience of lying awake at night is often accompanied by a distorted sense of time. Research in this area has found that people who are anxious or ruminative while trying to sleep consistently, overestimate how long they have been awake and underestimate how much sleep they have gotten. This time, distortion is one of the primary ways in which poor sleep sustains itself. When you believe you have been awake for 2 hours, but you have actually been awake for 40 minutes. The distress that belief creates produces additional wakefulness that extends the period. Knowing that the wakeful mind consistently overestimates its own wakefulness is a small but meaningful form of release. Sleep, regularity, going to sleep and waking at consistent times, is increasingly recognized as equally or more meaningful than sleep duration for long-term health. A large study published in a peer-reviewed sleep journal analyzed sleep patterns in over 60,000 adults and found that sleep regularity was a stronger predictor of mortality risk than average sleep duration. The consistency of your sleep-wake timing appears to have independent health effects beyond simply the amount of sleep you accumulate. This does not mean rigid schedules. It means trusting your body enough to honor its rhythms, to let the day end when the day ends, and to trust that tomorrow will arrive without your keeping watch. The phenomenon of sleep spindles, bursts of synchronized neural activity occurring during stage 2 non-REM sleep, has drawn increasing attention from researchers studying memory and sensory gating. Sleep spindles appear to serve 2 functions simultaneously. They consolidate newly learned information by replaying it in compressed form, and they actively suppress incoming sensory signals, protecting sleep from disruption. People with higher spindle density tend to sleep more deeply in environments with background noise. This sensory gating function is the brain physically closing a door. It is one of the most literal forms of letting go in sleep science. The brain not just ignoring the world, but actively choosing to stop listening. The relationship between exercise and sleep has been studied extensively, with consistent findings. Regular, moderate aerobic exercise, around 30 minutes, most days of the week, improves sleep onset, increases slow-wave sleep, and reduces symptoms of insomnia. The mechanisms are multiple. Exercise reduces baseline cortisol, raises core body temperature in a way that promotes the subsequent cooling associated with sleep onset, increases adenosine buildup, and improves mood through endorphin and brain-derived neurotrophic factor release. Movement during the day is preparation for stillness at night. The body that has done something asks, naturally and without effort, to rest. Attachment theory, originally developed by psychologist John Bowlby to describe the bonds between infants and caregivers, has been extended in recent decades to understand adult sleep. Individuals with secure attachment styles, who feel fundamentally safe in their close relationships, tend to sleep better, wake less frequently, and report lower sleep anxiety. The connection makes biological sense. The nervous system evolved to use social safety as a primary cue for threat assessment. Feeling genuinely safe, not just physically, but relationally, calms the same neural systems that need to quiet for sleep to arrive. Warmth, in its most biological sense, helps you let go. The relationship between alcohol and sleep is one of the most commonly misunderstood in everyday life. Alcohol is a sedative. It speeds sleep onset and increases slow-wave sleep in the first half of the night. But as the body metabolizes alcohol, it creates a rebound effect in the second half of the night. More REM disruption, more frequent waking, more light sleep, and reduced slow-wave sleep. The overall effect on sleep quality is negative. Studies using objective sleep measurement have found that even moderate alcohol consumption reduces sleep quality meaningfully. The initial sedation feels like letting go, but the metabolic aftermath is a form of biological holding on. Caffeine's half-life in the body is approximately 5 to 7 hours in most adults, though this varies based on genetics, age, and liver function. This means that a cup of coffee consumed at 2 in the afternoon still has half of its caffeine active in your bloodstream by 7 or 8 in the evening. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors, the very receptors that accumulate sleep pressure through the day. When caffeine binds to these receptors, it masks the signal that your body has been building towards sleep for hours. You do not feel the full weight of the day's tiredness until the caffeine clears. Understanding this is simply a map of what you might gently release. The experience of feeling emotionally lighter after a good night's sleep is not just subjective. Neuroimaging research has shown that well-rested individuals exhibit reduced amygdala reactivity to difficult stimuli. That is, they respond more calmly to the same emotional provocation compared to their sleep-deprived counterparts. Additionally, the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, which is the neural pathway through which rational regulation of emotion occurs, is stronger and more efficient after adequate sleep. Sleep does not solve problems, but it changes the emotional weight those problems carry. Things that felt unbearable the night before often reveal themselves in the morning to be merely difficult. And difficult is something a rested mind can work with. There is a concept in sleep research called the first night effect, the tendency for sleep quality to be meaningfully worse on the first night in a new environment. Researchers studying this phenomenon have found that during first night sleep, one hemisphere of the brain remains in a lighter, more watchful state, while the other hemisphere sleeps normally. This asymmetric sleep appears to serve a guardian function, keeping part of the brain alert in an unfamiliar environment. It is an ancient protective mechanism, and it demonstrates something profound. The nervous system does not fully let go until it feels safe. The quality of your sleep is, in part, a direct reflection of how safe your environment and your sense of yourself within it genuinely feels. Napping, specifically short naps of 10 to 20 minutes, has been shown to improve alertness, mood, and cognitive performance in the hours following the nap, without significantly disrupting nighttime sleep for most adults. The mechanism is simple. Even brief periods of sleep clear some of the day's adenosine accumulation and allow neural circuits to reset. Naps lasting longer than 30 minutes, however, often enter slow-wave sleep, producing the grogginess of sleep inertia upon waking and potentially reducing nighttime sleep pressure. The art of the nap is the art of letting go briefly, drawing on rest without consuming it entirely. Even in sleep, balance and timing matter. Temperature regulation during sleep is not constant throughout the night. Core body temperature continues to fall through the first few hours of sleep, reaching its lowest point in the early morning hours before dawn, then rising in the hours before natural waking. This temperature rhythm is closely tied to the timing of sleep stages. Deep, slow-wave sleep predominates when the body is coolest. REM sleep increases as the body begins to warm. Disruptions to this thermal cycle, from fevers, a room that is too warm, or certain medications, can fragment sleep even when adenosine levels are high. The body's capacity to let go depends, in part, on its ability to cool, and cooling depends on the conditions you create. The science of lucid dreaming, the state in which a dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can sometimes influence the dream's content, has advanced meaningfully in recent years. Researchers using polysomnography combined with eye movement signaling have been able to establish two-way communication with lucid dreamers during REM sleep. From a letting go perspective, the lucid dream is an interesting quality. Awareness within surrender, presence within the dream. The dreamer does not resist the dream. They inhabit it more fully. Perhaps that is a way of understanding waking life as well. That presence and release are not opposites, but companions. Social jet lag. The discrepancy between a person's biological clock and their socially required schedule affects an estimated 60 to 70% of the adult working population in industrialized countries. It is measured as the difference in mid-sleep time between work days and free days. Even 1 hour of social jet lag is associated with increased rates of depression, cardiovascular risk, and poor sleep quality. The chronic misalignment between internal biology and external demands is the cost of not letting the body sleep when it needs to. The body keeps a quiet account of every override, and each night of honored rest is a small payment toward that account. There is something called sleep-dependent motor learning, the improvement in a newly learned physical skill that occurs not during practice, but during the subsequent night's sleep. Research on musicians, athletes, and surgical trainees has consistently shown that performance on a learned motor task improves after sleep compared to after an equivalent period of wakefulness. The consolidation appears to depend on specific sleep stages, particularly stage 2 non-REM sleep and its associated spindle activity. The implication is that effort during the day is only part of the story. What you practice during waking hours is processed, refined, and embedded during sleep. The night you let go of the day is also the night you become more capable at what you tried. Fear extinction. The process by which fear associations are gradually weakened through repeated exposure to the feared stimulus without negative consequence is a core component of many therapeutic approaches to anxiety. Research has shown that sleep plays a central role in fear extinction, consolidation. The reduction in fear achieved during a therapeutic session is meaningfully greater if followed by a night of sleep rather than a period of wakefulness. Sleep does not erase fear memories, but it appears to strengthen the neural circuits that allow new, safer associations to develop alongside the old ones. Every night of sleep is, in a quiet and invisible way, a therapeutic session the body conducts on its own behalf. Spontaneous thought, the unguided, self-generated thinking that characterizes mind-wandering occupies roughly 47% of waking hours. According to a study using experience sampling methodology, much of this spontaneous thought is future-oriented, planning, anticipating, rehearsing. Research suggests that the future orientation of mind-wandering increases as bedtime approaches, as the brain attempts to prepare for the coming day. This pre-sleep planning tendency is well-meaning but counterproductive when it generates arousal at the wrong time. The body is trying to help. It is simply using the wrong hour to do it. Recognizing the planning mind at bedtime as misplaced helpfulness, rather than an emergency, makes it considerably easier to gently redirect. The pineal gland, a small, pea-sized endocrine structure deep in the center of the brain, was described by the philosopher René Descartes as the seat of the soul. Modern neuroscience has given it a more modest but still remarkable role. It is the primary producer of melatonin, and it appears to have evolved no other known function. The pineal gland does not regulate heartbeat, appetite, or stress. It does one thing. It converts information about light and darkness into the hormonal language of the circadian clock. This degree of specialization, an entire structure devoted to communicating the arrival of night, suggests something about how fundamental the letting go of darkness actually is in the biology of living things. Sleep quality is strongly predicted by what researchers call sleep self-efficacy, a person's belief in their own ability to sleep well. People with high sleep self-efficacy fall asleep more easily, wake less often, and report better overall sleep quality, independent of objective measures. Self-efficacy beliefs influence behavior, attention, and physiological arousal in concrete, measurable ways. When you trust that you can sleep, you are less likely to monitor your own sleep, less likely to treat wakefulness as a problem, and more likely to engage in the passive behaviors that actually support sleep onset. The quiet belief that you can let go is, in part, what makes letting go possible. Restorative sleep is characterized by what researchers call subjective sleep quality, the feeling, upon waking, of having genuinely rested. Interestingly, subjective sleep quality does not always match objective measures. People sometimes feel poorly rested despite adequate sleep, and sometimes feel fully restored from relatively short sleep. What predicts subjective sleep quality most consistently is not the total number of hours, but the proportion of slow-wave sleep, the continuity of sleep, and, most meaningfully, the emotional state with which the person entered sleep. Going to bed with a quiet mind, regardless of the hours spent in bed, is one of the strongest predictors of feeling genuinely restored by morning. The default mode network, encountered earlier in our journey, has a particular relationship with the sense of self. It activates during self-referential thought. When you reflect on your own history, imagine your own future, or consider how others perceive you. During sleep, this network does not simply turn off. It continues to operate in coordinated bursts, particularly during REM sleep. What changes is the quality of that self-referential activity. It becomes more fluid, less defended, less insistent. The boundary of the self softens. Perhaps this is why sleep is so restorative, not just because it repairs the body, but because it temporarily releases the labor of being someone. There is a growing field of study concerned with what researchers call social sleep, the ways in which sleep is shaped by social context and, in turn, shapes social function. Studies of couples sleeping in the same bed have found that one partner's sleep disruptions meaningfully affect the other's sleep quality. Conversely, feeling socially connected and emotionally supported is consistently associated with improved sleep. Research with older adults has found that feelings of social isolation predict poor sleep quality as strongly as physical health measures. The nervous system, at its foundation, evolved in social context. Feeling held by a person, a practice, or even a familiar voice is a biological precondition for letting go. Dreams of falling, one of the most widely reported dream themes across cultures, are thought to be partly explained by hypnic jerks. The sudden, involuntary muscle contractions that occur during the transition into sleep. As the body begins to relax and the brain shifts into early sleep, a brief burst of neural activity can cause a sudden jerk of the limbs, sometimes accompanied by a vivid image of tripping or falling. Hypnic jerks are entirely benign and very common, affecting an estimated 60 to 70% of people at some point. They are a small, harmless encounter with the letting go of muscular control, a brief negotiation between waking tone and the relaxation that sleep requires, the body finding its way to stillness. Sleep quality among people who practice meditation regularly, particularly mindfulness and loving kindness meditation, is consistently better than in non-meditating populations. A systematic review of meditation-based sleep interventions found improvements not only in subjective sleep quality, but in objective measures of sleep onset and duration. What is particularly meaningful is that the improvements appear to extend beyond the meditation sessions themselves, suggesting that regular practice changes the baseline state of the nervous system. Long-term meditators show structural differences in the brain regions involved in attention regulation and emotional processing. Meditation does not merely help you fall asleep on a given night. It may gradually change who you are as you approach sleep. But now, a clear answer has emerged to the quiet question that opened our journey tonight. Letting go is not a passive act or a poetic metaphor. It is a biological necessity, a neurological event, and a practice that can be cultivated, deepened, and returned to each night. Every system in the body, hormonal, neurological, immunological, thermal, autonomic, participates in the act of release. Sleep is not something that happens to a body that surrenders. Sleep is the form that surrender takes in a body that is finally able to trust itself. Tonight, you have not just learned about letting go, you have been practicing it, breath by breath, fact by fact, all along. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles, your breath, inhale and exhale. Your heart, its steady rhythm. Your body has been in this cycle of tension and release since the first moment of your life. You are not learning something new tonight. You are remembering something old. Like planets silently rotating in their orbits, unhurried, unresisting, simply existing. You don't need to hold on to anything. Let everything unfold in its perfect order. We're almost there now. Letting go is not forgetting. The brain that releases does not empty. It makes space. And in that space, what remains is truer, quieter, more essential. The mind that has learned to release carries less. And in carrying less, it moves through the world with a lightness that no amount of holding on can produce. Tonight, each breath out is a small act of making space. Every night, without instruction, your heart rate slows, your muscles soften, your breath deepens on its own. The body has been practicing this since before you knew what sleep was, long before you had words for rest or release. It already knows the way. You are not teaching it anything tonight. You are simply following where it leads. Sleep spindles protect your sleep from noise. Small bursts of neural synchrony that close the door to the outside world. The brain, in its quiet wisdom, builds its own silence. This happens dozens of times each night. Without your awareness, without your effort, you do not have to keep the world out. Your sleeping brain has already decided to do that for you. Growth hormone, released in your first hour of deep sleep, begins the repair of tissues throughout the body. Cells renew. Proteins rebuild. The architecture of the body quietly restores itself. In the dark, you do not have to do anything. You only have to be still long enough for it to begin. And it will begin, as it always has, as it always will. The amygdala quiets in well-rested brains. Emotional events that felt sharp in the day become softer by morning, their edges rounded by sleep, their urgency gently dissolved. Sleep does not take away what happened. It takes away the edge. And an edgeless truth is one you can carry more easily into a new day. REM sleep arrives like a tide, predictably, inevitably, multiple times through the night. You do not call it. You do not earn it. It moves through you the way water moves through a riverbed, not because you invited it, but because you stopped blocking its path. You only have to stay in the water long enough for the tide to find you. Melatonin is darkness made into chemistry. It is the body's way of saying, the world has gone quiet. Now you can too. Every evening, without failure. The pineal gland begins this process. This slow translation of darkness into permission. And permission, given enough time, to becomes rest. The night is already doing its part. The body temperature falls through the night. Slowly, gradually, like a candle burning lower. Something in the body knows it needs to cool before it can rest. The warmth you feel now is the beginning of that cooling. It means the process has already started. It means the body is already on its way to where it is going, without you having to lead it there. People who sleep well tend to share one quality. They do not try very hard. They lie down. They become still. and they allow the night to do what the night has always done. Not because they are gifted sleepers, but because at some point they learned, perhaps without noticing, to stop arguing with the dark. Perhaps tonight is one of those moments for you. There are sounds in nature, rain on leaves, water over stones, wind moving through tall grass, that the nervous system recognizes as safe. They were the sounds of a world at rest in the environment where our nervous systems were first shaped. The body hears safety in softness. It always has. And softness, in whatever form it reaches you tonight, is enough. Breathing slows to its quietest point in the earliest hours of the morning, around 4 a.m. The body, at its most surrendered, breathes less. Less movement, less demand, less reaching toward anything. Just the quiet continuation of being. Like a lake in still weather, barely any surface, barely any edge between the water and the air above it. The hippocampus works through the night to take the fragments of the day and weave them gently into the larger story of your life. You do not direct this process. It happens beneath intention, below language, in a place words rarely go, like roots drawing water through dark soil, patient and unhurried, tending to what matters most without needing to be asked. The act of releasing resentment or grievance has measurable effects on the body. Studies show that genuine forgiveness reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, and decreases activation in regions associated with threat processing. Letting go of what was done to you is not just an act of generosity towards someone else. It is also an act of kindness toward the body that has been quietly holding the weight of it. The sleeping brain replays the day in compressed, accelerated sequences. It tests associations. It rehearses what mattered. But it does all of this without asking you to watch. The work of sleep is quiet work, the best kind, the kind that requires nothing from you except that you remain in the room where it is happening, warm and still and present. Every cell in your body contains the instructions for repair. Immune cells move through the body on their quiet rounds. Membranes strengthen. Neurons release the connections they no longer need. All of this happens in the dark, like a gardener who works only at night, tending without being seen, restoring without being thanked, asking only for stillness in return. Surrender does not have to mean defeat. In the body's language, it means trust. Trust that the process will continue without your supervision. Trust that the night will end. Trust that you will be returned to yourself by morning. The body has honored that trust every night of your life. There is no reason to believe tonight will be any different. Sleep is not the absence of consciousness. It is a different kind of consciousness, one that does not need an audience, one that moves freely through time and memory without the weight of self-monitoring. When you sleep, you are not less aware. You are differently present, present to something deeper than the story you tell about yourself when you are awake. There is a moment in the hypnagogic state, that threshold between waking and sleeping, when the mind produces images without any author. No one decides what appears. It is thought without a thinker, imagination without intention. It is one of the most free things the human mind ever does. If you feel it tonight, that loosening, that soft drift into something unbidden, let it come. That is the door opening. When you wake tomorrow, the adenosine will be cleared. The glymphatic channels will have moved through the brain like a slow tide, carrying away what the day left behind. The amygdala will be quieter. The prefrontal cortex will be steadier. The body gives back in the morning what the night quietly worked to restore. And it will do so again tonight, as it always has, as long as you allow it. Letting go does not happen all at once. It happens in layers. A breath, a muscle, a thought released, another thought released. The mind circles the same concern, and then, at some point, simply does not return to it. That moment of not returning is not something you can force. It arrives on its own, like the turning of a tide. When the conditions are finally right, they are right now. Your heart has beaten more than 100,000 times today. Without your instruction, without your awareness, with a patience and consistency that outlasts every worry you have ever had. That same patience is available to you now, in this quiet place, in this soft hour. It has always been available. You have simply been too busy to notice it until now. Dreams carry the emotional residue of the day into a space where it can be turned gently in the mind's hands and examined without harm. Whatever has been heavy today, whatever you have been carrying since morning, your dreaming mind will hold it tonight with more care than your waking mind could manage. It knows what to keep and what to soften. Trust it. The night has no agenda. It is simply the time after the light. It asks nothing of you except that you be in it, that you allow the dark to be dark, that you let the quiet be enough. The night does not require your participation. It only requires your presence. And you are already here. That is already everything. Sleep returns the body to something close to its original state. Not repaired beyond itself, but restored to itself, to the version that existed before the day accumulated its weight. You wake not as a new person, but as the same person, lightened. And a lightened self is a more honest self. The one you were before the day added what it added. And so the answer reveals itself, not as a fact, but as something felt. Letting go helps you sleep better, not because it solves what troubles you, but because sleep has never needed your problems to be solved. It has only needed you to stop insisting that they must be. The body knows how to rest. It has always known. The mind, tonight, finally agreed. And so, our quiet journey through the science of letting go comes to a gentle close. We traveled from the first quiet dimming of the locus coeruleus, that small cluster of neurons standing down from its watch, all the way to the soft, wordless truth of fact, 100. We passed through the chemistry of melatonin and the rhythm of cortisol, through the emotional safety of REM sleep and the cellular repair of slow-wave rest. We discovered that every system in the body participates in the act of release, that letting go is not one thing, but 1,000 small surrenders happening simultaneously. Below the level of thought, in the patient dark, from the thermal cooling of your body on a quiet evening, to the glymphatic channels moving through the sleeping brain, we glimpsed how letting go is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything the body does best. The science of sleep reminds us that the body has never needed our permission to heal, only our absence of interference. Much of the most important work of being alive happens in silence, in the dark, in the hours we cannot remember. Sleep reveals a patience that runs deeper than thought. Without it, we carry yesterday into tomorrow without end. By pausing to notice, we glimpse the extraordinary generosity of a body that restores itself every single night, simply because we gave it the chance. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can. As deep as possible, think about unity, of every cell in your body that has been working without your awareness all day, of every breath you have taken since you were born, none of which required your instruction. You are not separate from this process. You are this process. Let your entire being dissolve into the soft, unheld quiet of approaching sleep, into the darkness that is not empty, but full of everything that heals without being asked. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left. Only peace. If these gentle hours helped you release something you have been carrying, perhaps pass it softly to someone who might need the same quiet permission to rest. One gentle share. One more sleepy soul finding their way home. One quiet tap. One peaceful night at a time. But there is no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You have traveled far tonight, not across miles, but inward, through layers of biology and breath and quiet understanding. You can allow these thoughts of letting go to fade now, like the last light crossing an open window. Not gone, simply no longer needed, leaving only the warm, still calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if something patient and vast has found you here and is simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you, the way a long exhale carries the last of the day's tension. Not forced, not rushed, but arriving into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your body's wisdom will still be there. The night will still know how to hold you. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul. And remember, the body has always known how to let go. Good night.